Hello and welcome to the FEZ Show, live from the Media Centre. I'm with Mr. Pickering. How are you?
I'm good. Not as live. This was recorded a while ago, but I'm good.
I'm glad you're good. Let's talk about today's race because it was a bit of a cracker, actually. Lucas Di Grassi, strategic race.
It's almost like history repeats itself. Jake Dennis wins on a Saturday, and Lucas Di Grassi strategically wins on a Sunday. However, this time it sticks. So it was a fantastic race for him, and he played that to an absolute T, and fantastic from him to win, and now he's equal to Seb Wemmy.
Yeah, he's taken the. I think he's taken the record. Actually, I think they said
equaled.
He's equaled the record. Okay, in the press conference they said that he'd taken the record, but I want to talk about attack mode because we had 3 attack modes for 4 minutes. How did that spice up the race for you?
I think it was a good call because we've seen it happen in the past. I think in New York we had a couple of years ago where the first race do the traditional 2x4 and then in the second race do 3x3, and I don't think they've done enough of that this season where they'd spice it up in the second race. I remember speaking to Lucas back in Rome or something, and he said, we should have done something different with attack mode there." And so I'm happy that they've done something different for today's race, and it paid off because it was a fantastic race, and yeah.
Yeah, and so Lucas, obviously, yesterday Nick Cassidy showed us how the overcut was really powerful. And really today, Lucas proved how good the undercut was, because basically what he did was he undercut Jake Dennis, right, by taking his second attack mode before the first one. Jake Dennis didn't respond to that, and that gave him that little bit of advantage, and that kind of put him in the position to win that race.
Well, as I said, it was strategic masterclass from Venturi and Lucas to do that, and it really put him under pressure, and
so let's see what Lucas Di Grassi had to say.
For today, we changed a bit the car. We learned from yesterday, and we were straight fast again in groups and duos. I think Jake had an edge on myself in a single lap, but I think we found a good compromise with the car setup today. That from the second attack mode onwards, I think Jake started to slide a bit with the rear. I could feel that, and I was just trying to keep the pressure there, especially with the first 2 attack modes. The intention was not even to overtake, it was just to stay close and win the gap, and then try to gain position when we exchange positions during attack mode. And that's what happened. So when he used his third attack mode, I was in front. We had a very similar energy. And I knew I suspected he would struggle with the third attack mode because the tires, because everybody's tires by then was going down. Here, the track is slow. It's the slowest average of the year, but it's very energy dense for the tires because of the grip level. So the tires, the rear tires, it really, really hard. It's a bit like Berlin in a way, how the tires degrade. And then my worry was with Nick, because Nick had more energy, had about 1% more. And then I tried just to do a few laps, the limit I could do to stay in front, and then I managed to open a small gap, which was enough to finish the race. So it was a great fight, and great race.
Right, we've got to talk about the title fight, but the title fight took a massive twist right at the end, and we've got to talk Mitch Evans first, because he was on to closing the championship to, it's still 20 points. It still would have been a big gap for Stoffel Vandoorne. But to retire with 2 laps to go with a mechanical issue, gutting.
Well, 20 points is doable in 2 races. 36 points is going to be a little bit touch and go. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Stoff's got one hand on that trophy now. I think that's the same for Mercedes EQ. But absolutely gutting for Mitch, because I'm a fan of the show, and so I just want to have a nice title fight that takes us to the last race. We technically do. We have 3 mathematical people who can take the title, but it's basically Stoff's now. But I spoke to Mitch earlier on. He was gutted. He used some choice language, so that's in advance, so you know what's coming. But it was gutting for him.
Yeah, indeed. So let's hear what Mitch Evans had to say.
It was going good. We're having a really strong race. Yeah, everything was going to plan from where we were starting. To be, let's say, in the lead fight to a degree, obviously it was coming towards us a little bit with Nick was really strong, but they were catching the other two. I didn't really know if the wind was on or not. It was just, it was nice to be in that fight after starting, halfway down the grid, or more than that. Yeah, it was just a really strong race. I was really happy with how I raced, very aggressive overtaking. The car was operating well. The team did a great job of strategy. So I thought yesterday was good, but today was looking better. But it doesn't mean for much now.
So going to Seoul, it's a big gap. It's 36 or 37 points, I think it is. Do you still allow? Sorry. Yeah. So do you allow yourself to think about that, or do you just going like, it's out, and so you just go for glory?
I don't know. I go with the same approach really. Whether I'm 2 points behind or 36 points behind, because you go there to win. Obviously now it's maybe a little bit less pressure on me, but yeah, I don't know really. At the moment I'm just feel really shit for the team and everyone involved, also for myself, to be honest. Sorry, I don't really know how to sort of know what to think, but yeah, obviously Stoffel's got one hand on it now, and we try and stop that, but until it's not possible, can we see?
We have to talk about Stoffel Vandoorne. Like, he obviously benefited massively from Mitch Evans obviously retiring, a 36-point lead now in the championship. You said a moment ago he's got one hand on it. Surely now he goes. I wonder what his mindset will be like between now and 2 weeks' time, because he knows he's got that cushion. He knows he doesn't have to risk it, really.
I'm glad you asked, because I also spoke to him. So yeah, basically, I think the racing driver mindset, like, they always want to take it race by race. But yeah, he did kind of say, yeah, I do kind of have to start thinking about the championship now, because it is almost in grasp. But yeah, he got handed that on a silver platter today. I don't think it's the way that he wants to win the championship, because obviously he would love to be like pushed all the way to the line, but yeah, it's fantastic.
He did what he needed to do though today.
Exactly.
In terms of, like, Mitch Evans got in front of him because he got caught up. He said earlier on in the race, in the first corner incident, but he kept up with Mitch. Mitch made a pass. He went and made that pass. He was right behind him when Mitch had his failure.
Yeah, and then he was the beneficiary of it, and yeah, he did a fantastic job to finish fourth.
Right. So let's hear what Stoffel Vandoorne had to say.
It's been a good day, definitely. I probably could have made my life a little bit easier with qualifying higher up the grid, but coming from 13 on the grid, it was a great drive, many overtakes, managed to stay out of trouble, and yeah, great to finish it off like that.
You picked up some damage in the early stages of the race. Did that affect you at all?
The car was definitely a little bit imbalanced because of that, but I think in general it wasn't too bad.
So going to Seoul now, you now obviously lead the championship by a hefty margin. Do you allow yourself to think about that now, or because racing drivers always say take it race by race and it will come to you, but now you're heading to the final weekend, big margin. Do you start thinking about this now?
Well, I think it's natural and human to think about it. Already before the weekend, everyone was telling, yeah, it's me, Edo, Mitch, Jeff. We're the four guys that are being focused on, let's say. And yeah, I think it's natural, it's human. But I still want to approach the races the same way, and I still want to have two good results. I think I've got some pretty good statistics on finishing positions this year, and I want to keep them.
We've got to talk about Jake Dennis, right? What a weekend he's had. Obviously winning yesterday, second today, kind of got undone by that attack mode, but what a weekend he's had.
I think he can cycle around the track and put it on pole position. Genuinely, that's how good he's been this weekend. Yes, he's been the driver of the weekend by far and away. Yeah, he's been absolutely flawless, and the only way that Lucas was able to beat him today was just through strategy, and that was it. That was it. Apart from that, he was on fire every single session this weekend. Yeah.
It was an absolute brilliant drive from Jake Dennis all weekend, and let's hear what he had to say.
Amazing weekend. We can be super pleased with what we've achieved today, yesterday, and all weekend. So, yeah, super happy. Relieved to obviously get a podium in that final race. It was super physically tough, and I just struggled a little bit with a few things on the car today. And just pleased to come home in second.
Talk to me about the attack modes, and obviously because it was a real strategic race between you and Di Grassi. Obviously, when he took his second one, what was the discussion between you and the team at that point, whether you should cover him off or because you stayed and you stayed out?
Well, there was a lot of ideas floating about. It was yes, no, maybe, and honestly, I can't even remember what went down. I just know that I took attack at a stage where it wasn't even possible to take it, so it didn't arm. And that just basically lost 1.5 seconds. So, nevertheless, it is what it is. Lesson learned from my side with that. Whether I would have won the race and kept Lucas behind at the end would have been another story. He was quite a bit faster than me, and it would have been hard. But all good, honestly. No regrets at all. So very happy.
What have you learned? I don't know if you've done any prep for Seoul yet. What are you looking like in the simulator? Do you think it'll be a track for you?
I've literally done nothing. I don't even know which way turn one goes, if it's left or right. So I think it's the same for everyone. We're so focused on obviously London and doing all that prep, and because they're so back to back, you just focus on one weekend at a time. So next week we'll be back straight in on the simulator and doing all the homework. But right now, all I know is there's a stadium section. That's it.
We have to talk about Antonio Giovannetti. It's kind of bittersweet in a sense. It was brilliant. The qualifying, third place, Dragon really had the pace this weekend. But ultimately, the car, it just showed that they had the pace, but the car really, really let them down.
Yeah, and Antonio was fantastic in qualifying today. I don't think many people saw that coming out the back, and he was fantastic to put it on the second row. Not just that, but have a time quicker than Costa in the duels in the semi-finals, because Costa also lost the semi-final. To put him third, amazing, and he was able to stay there for the first part of the race, and he slipped down to about fifth before he got that penalty for power overuse. But I think maybe had everything gone to plan and he not had that issue with power overuse, he could have potentially hung around for a couple of points, but it wouldn't have been more than that. But Draken did get those points in the end in set of camera.
They did. And obviously, if you think about the race, if the car, even for Sergio set of camera, they had issues yesterday where he was basically doing the race blind. So it just proves that it's actually really interesting just how many issues Dragon have, and how we watch the races and we see Antonio Giovannetti and Sergio Sade Camera out of the race, going into the pit lane, not performing well, and we go, he's not really adapted well to Formula E. But you get performances like today and you go, actually, maybe if it all comes together, it shows how good Antonio Giovannetti and Sade Camera can be in this series.
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been a couple of rumours that Giovannetti might stay in the series. It's now looking less likely, but he showed today that all these performances where he's been towards the back, he's shown some real pace today, and I'm so happy just because. I think he was doubting himself. I think there were lots of people watching, doubting him. Even though like this time last year he was getting into Q3 in an Alfa Romeo in F1, where the Alfa was worse than the Williams, and everyone was praising George for getting through to Q3 every now and again. But the Alfa was worse, and he was getting through to Q3 every now and again as well.
Exactly. So let's hear what Giovannetti had to say.
I feel good. I feel great. Good qualifying, good lap. It's been a really fun qualifying. I think also in the race we had a really good pace. We were there fighting with the people in front, and we were not overconsumed. So I was pretty sure that today we could score points with both cars. So unfortunately happened what happened, with the overpower. So we had a powertrain issue 2 times, and then we decided to retire because the problem was still there. So fortunately it's like this. Now let's see what we can do in Seoul.
How frustrating is it? Because obviously there was a chance for big points. Obviously Sergio yesterday, yourself today, obviously to try and overtake Neo in the championship. Just how disappointing are you that it's kind of a missed opportunity?
Yeah, I completely agree. Big disappointing because we don't know what where we will be in Seoul. It's a new track, and maybe we will not be fast. Maybe yes. So we don't know. I hope we can be fast and we can try, to have another opportunity there in Seoul.
Okay, so what I want to talk about now actually is the incident that happened on lap 1 between Oliver Rowland and Oliver Askew, the battle of the Olivers, if you may. But they seemed like they had a bit of a dispute over who was at fault. Obviously, Oliver Askew got the drive-through penalty, and obviously Rowland was launched into the air, so you can probably see why that happened. But speaking to both of them, Askew was a bit unsure why he got the penalty, and Rowland was obviously stating, yeah, well, of course he got the penalty.
Well, yeah, I mean, as we saw last year, when you come out of the infield bit and you head down the ramp, there is a bit of a squeeze, and that's what hurt Sam Bird last year. And this year it sent Rowland flying. I think that Askew was at fault. However, I do think that the drive-through penalty was a bit harsh, but we've seen this weekend that the stewards have been very, very hard on the drivers. So with De Vries yesterday getting and Frines yesterday for getting 5-second penalties for defending over aggressively. So yeah, it was an interesting one. I think they made the right call in terms of which driver was at fault, but it's a shame because I think Askew has had some good pace this weekend. Ollie Rowland, they could have made a couple of places and maybe potentially finished in the points because he started P9 or P10. And it just means that they've just lost more points to Nissan now with Seb Buemi in 6th. So, yeah.
Indeed. So let's hear from both drivers, starting with Oliver Rowland. Oliver, probably not the London E-Prix that you wanted this year.
You could say that again.
Talk to me about what happened at Turn 1, because obviously we didn't really quite see what happened between you and Oliver.
Yeah, I was actually at Turn 5 down the hill. Obviously, I went quite high up in the air. I was on the outside out of Turn 5 and kind of there on the way down the hill and kind of squeezed me and I had nowhere to go but into the wall, which put me up in the air. Yeah.
In terms of Seoul, have you done any prep for that yet, or is it all starting from next week?
No, it'll be starting Tuesday, Wednesday, so yeah. Not really thinking about that at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, so I had a chance to review. I'd like to talk to Rowland about it as well before I comment too much on it. But yeah, it looked like I was in front of him, and then I tried to close the door, and then he was continuing on with the move down the inside of turn 6, and then there's obviously big contact. So I'd like to talk to him and also the stewards because I thought a drive-through was a bit harsh for that incident.
Okay, obviously you got the drive-through penalty, but then obviously later on you retired from the race. What was the reason behind that?
I'm not sure right now. It felt like a puncture, but I'm not quite sure.
So, really and truly, Oliver Askew and Rowland weren't the only two drivers that were kind of bickering at each other. Because Nick Cassidy, obviously, he retired from the race, picked up a puncture. And he pointed the blame firmly at Maximilian Gunther. But Gunther, when we asked him, was a bit like, I don't know what you're talking about.
In an interview that you guys will never see, yes, it was basically me going, what happened with Nick Cassidy? Is like, what? It was like, apparently he said some stuff. I was like, no, I don't know. And that was the end of the interview. My finest hour. So it was, we don't really know what happened there because I don't think it was broadcast, but there was an incident where Cassidy was complaining that Gunther overtook him on safety car, so it means that it probably happened early on when they were fighting over P6 and P7, and so unfortunately we didn't really know about that, but Cassidy was quite miffed, I think is
he did. He
word.
said he broke the valve of the tyre and the suspension, and there was like 7 touches of contact between the two drivers. But I suppose we'll throw over to Nick Cassidy first, and then we won't hear from Gunther.
We won't hear from Gunther.
We've told
that
you.
interview is gone.
We told you what Gunther said, but we'll throw you over to Cassidy and see what he said.
I got a puncture because I was hit 7 times in 7 corners by Gunther. So, what do you want me to do? Same in New York. A tsunami comes down and I'm first to arrive. So, I've been pretty unlucky on Sundays, and it sucks because, New York we should have won Sunday, and today we were for sure podium material. So, yeah.
Talk to me. So, was the retirement just because of damage to the car that was sustained?
I mean, he broke my valve on my tire. He broke my left rear suspension. Made my car pretty difficult to drive. I don't know what the guy was thinking.
Right, I want to move on to Tech Cheetah because it's been a really strange run of form that they're having at the moment. And we saw yesterday between Vern and Costa, them two like battling between each other, hitting each other. And then today, obviously for Vern didn't hang around long in the media pen. Like if you got a word with Vern today, you're a very lucky person. But you managed to speak to Costa. Like, what did he say? Like, where's the form gone?
I mean, Vern stayed longer in the media pen than he did in the race, to be fair. But yeah, it was a horrible race for him. He went out, I think, and no, it was partway through lap 2 because he did a lap with damage because he was after Rowland got hit into the air with the Askew incident. He hit Vern round. Vern was able to continue in around 9th or 10th for a lap, and then just
It was a broken radiator that was the end of the day for Vern.
But Da Costa, he got into the duels, which was better than yesterday, because yesterday the Cheetah were absolutely nowhere. But basically their setup that they had, it was basically shredding the tyres. And so Da Costa just dropped off a cliff at some point because he was in the battle for the podium for a fair part of the race, but then he just faded away to 5th place, which is still a decent result. But yeah.
It's not where we remember Tech Cheetah being and the dominance that they've had in Formula E. So let's hear what Da Costa had to say.
I think the first kind of half of the race we were looking all right, but just something with our car balance here. We just damaged the tires so much, and I really struggled on the second half of the race. So I kind of knew going on. I was a bit surprised on the first half that I was actually looking pretty good, and I was feeling good. Following the leaders and keeping up, but then there was a drop-off moment in my race, kind of halfway, and I really struggled after that. And yeah, one of the hardest races I've done, to be honest. Super hard to stay connected with the balance with the car, and in the end, I think quali was better today, but in the end we finished almost in the same position on track, starting 12th for 4th. So it shows where our pace is. And a little bit of work to do on tracks like this.
It's now pretty evident that the fight's going to be for second in the championship now, where you're not actually too far off, and there's a fair clump of you that are able to fight for second in the championship. Is that something that you can potentially fight for?
It can be fun because obviously Mitch still is sniffing still at the championship itself, and you never know. Like if he bags another weekend like Rome, for example, you never know what can happen. But at the same time, we're trying to catch him. So, the mindset that he's gonna have to have will be strange. You know, should he point at trying to win the championship? Should he point at trying to stay second? So, honestly, I go to Seoul again, just trying to get some good points. Teams championship is also hard for us now, but see what we can do.
So finally, I want to talk about Edoardo Mortara because we came into this weekend going, you're on fine form, you could easily do something, and he's had 2 races from hell, and basically he's out of the title race.
Fine form is ish. He only picked up 3 points in New York City, even though he had that stunning drive on the Saturday which put him 5th, but he got a penalty that dropped him down to 9th. But this weekend has just been an absolute shocker for him. It was 18th yesterday. It was 13th today. It was dreadful. It means that he still has a mathematical shot at the championship, but realistically, it's pretty impossible. But he said basically what was missing was they weren't competitive all weekend.
Well, Di Grassi was, but he
wasn't. But yeah, no, and it was more frustrating for him that the fact that Lucas was able to win today, and Edo was 13th. He was quite dejected in the media pen earlier on.
So let's hear what Mortara had to say.
Well, I think it's been a pretty, it's been a little bit like a nightmare for me. What did we miss? Well, I guess that we missed competitiveness. We were not competitive enough, let's say, to challenge for the top positions, and this is always very, very frustrating, especially when you have your teammate, winning the race. That means that, the car and the team they were capable of doing it. Well, you know, these things in motorsport happen. I've also proven that when things are going well, you know, I can also do the result. And what was I missing? I guess like confidence. I think that this was the thing that I was missing this weekend.
Mathematically, it's still possible for you to win the title. So do you go into Seoul with that mindset that there is still the potential that you could be crowned world champion? Or at this point, do you think, well, I just have to do the best I can, and then if I get second, I get second?
I'll try to do my best, and then we will see where we end up. In the end, you know, if you think too much about the championship, you know, then I don't think that this is the right thing to do. I believe also that now it sounds to be extremely difficult, because even if mathematically there is still the chance, I think that there are 41 points, and this is starting to be quite a lot.
Right then, Jack. Another London E-Prix done. 2 races to go now in Seoul, which you'll be at. Obviously, we kind of know that it's looking like Stoffel Vandoorne for the title, but what are your expectations going there?
Well, as you said, I think Stoffel has got one hand on the trophy, and I think we should all start focusing on the battle for second, because I think that's going to be more intense, because you can add a few people in from underneath, like the Costas and Freins, and so yeah, it'll be a nice little battle for second place in the championship, I think, to Stoff. But it's going to be a completely new circuit for everyone.
Do you think that? Do you think a new circuit could throw up a couple of surprises, which could maybe potentially throw that 36-point gap into jeopardy?
Well, no one has any data for Seoul, and they will now head back to the factories and do sim work for the next couple of weeks. What is really good about Formula is in terms of the sims, they don't usually get them that early. So, like in some cases, they do get the track layout 3 weeks before the actual E-Prix, and so they don't have that much time to prep for the races, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to being out there. My bank account's looking less excited for me to be out there, but it's the Formula E season finale. What else do you want?
I think it was interesting speaking to drivers. I thought even though London was obviously now, I thought some of them might have started preparations for Seoul, considering that they'll be flying out there in a couple of days' time.
Especially in like the ones who are in the championship fight. I mean, I don't think they're going to fly out in a couple of days' time. Admittedly, there have been some changes to entry, so you need to do a PCR before you leave and when you get there, and you can't leave your hotel until you test negative. But yeah, I mean, I'm heading there a couple of days early just for the new regs, so I can do my PCR and still be in on the Friday. But I think that they'll be heading over towards next weekend, I think.
Well, it still though doesn't give them much time to obviously get the grips with the track and the simulator and so forth. So that's why I asked the question. In quite a few of them, Jake Dennis and a few others said that Jake Dennis gave me the great quote of, I don't even know if the turn one is left or right. So, but I just thought it was interesting that they hadn't started that preparation, but obviously it kind of makes sense.
I'll be honest, I don't think Jake cares. He's probably 3 drinks in at this point.
Well, never mind. But anyway.
It's what? It's past 7:30 now, so yeah, no, he'll be at least 3 drinks in.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for watching the FEZ show. I really
don't want him to see this. I hope you're not watching, Jake.
But yeah, we've had a blast, obviously, being here. Obviously, plenty of content has gone up on YouTube over the last 2 days, so check out the content, because I think we've managed to cover quite a bit.
Yeah, we have. I'm delighted that you've been here, because I mean, being a one-man band, when I've been out of the races, so it's good to have someone else to rely on. So it's been great to have your company this weekend,
and yours as well. Yeah. So we'll see you in Seoul in a couple of weeks' time. Well, he will, I won't. And
see you next year.
See you next year, indeed. All right, we'll catch you in another FEZ show shortly. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.